it's Lee from coloringqueen.net, and today I thought I'd colour in Tenderful Enchantments by Klara Markova. And this is for my Markova in March colour along. And I chose this picture, so I hope it turns out well. I'm kind of looking forward to this. I haven't coloured in Klara's books since last year, would you believe? Last March, so it's been a year. So since the last colour along from Klara, or for Klara, that I've actually opened a Klara book and coloured in. I've opened them a lot and I look at the pictures a lot, but getting the pencils out and putting them to the paper has been another issue. So I'm going to use my Holbeins today because that corresponds with a couple of colour alongs. One is H is for, and it's whatever supply that you've got that starts with H, so Holbeins for me. And the other one is a colour with your Holbeins challenge, so it can be watercolours or whatnot, but I don't have any of the other Holbein products, so I'm just going to use my pencils. And normally I just use my little set of 12, but I'm pretty giddy with excitement that you can now get open stock of Holbeins in Australia, so I'm going to use my full set. And I'm going to colour in this picture in blues and yellows. I'll probably add other colours though, and the reason for the blues and yellows is that there is another colour along to support the people of the Ukraine, and blue and yellow is their flag, and for that colour along you don't have to do the whole picture in the blue and yellows, so I'll be supporting the Ukraine and also colouring as well in those colours, and probably doing some greens or something for the rest of the things. I'm not sure about what to do with the background, so we'll sort of see how it goes, but anyway, that's the plan. Let's see if it works out or not. And you know, my heart just really goes out to everyone in the Ukraine. There are so many people in the colouring community as well in the Ukraine, including artist Tatyana Bergema. I can't remember her name now for the life of me. Colouring with Elena is in the Ukraine as well. And you know, what they must be going through is just terrible. And at the same time, you know, I don't know whether you agree with me or not. We're all different, but I also really feel sorry for, you know, a lot of the people in Russia because they don't want this, and especially a lot of our artists like Anastasia Elikoldareva, that's Russian. You know, a lot of these people don't want what's going on in the world, so, you know, I just hope this gets resolved and, you know, that life can resume to what would be normal, but obviously that's going to be a long slog and well above my pay grade. But closer to home, I'd like to thank everyone that sort of reached out to me to see if I was okay with the floods in the east coast of Australia. And look, compared to a lot of people, we're fine. We haven't lost our house or anything like that. We did have a moat there for a few days around the house, so got to pretend to be a little princess, you know, surrounded by a moat. But, you know, compared to some people, their whole houses are underwater, they've lost possessions. Many of David's friends had to get their boats out and sort of rescue people that were just a few streets away because they were unable to get out. They were elderly, or they just weren't able to because of their disabilities or whatever to get out of the house, and with the amount of pressure that the emergency services were under trying to rescue people. So luckily there's people like David's workmates that got out there in their boats and rescued people that weren't able to get out of their houses, because it must have been just horrific. I mean, where we live in Moreton Bay, north of Brisbane, we apparently had a year's worth of rain in a week, and in some of those days it was the bulk of the rain. And I think while we were in the midst of it, we lost all power to the house, and we were sitting out there on the balcony and we were thinking about dinner and watching the rain just bucket down. Like, the volume of rain is just unbelievable. And we were watching it and we were thinking, oh, well, we'll go and have dinner in a minute and, put something in the oven, and away we go, and we'll go and eat. And of course, the sky just lit up. There was this massive bang from across the road where the power lines are, and all these sparks, like fireworks going off. And then 5 seconds later, another power line, again the same thing across the road from us. Massive bang and sparks and fireworks, and then we lost all power. But it wasn't actually the whole suburb, like, 6 or 7 houses up the street, they had power. So it was like about 400 houses, I think, just in our area that lost power. And, the emergency services were pretty good at coming out and putting it back on, but we did have to wait. So because the rest of the suburb wasn't out of power, we were able to sort of drive up to the shops, which was kind of weird. You're driving along the road and there's no street lights like where we are, and then a few blocks down the road it's all lights are on and everything's happening. So luckily we were able to go up the shop and buy some takeaway food, but and then the next day we had some crackers and stuff, so we were fine. But our local supermarket was hit pretty hard with the floods. They lost all their car park and it kind of flooded, and because trucks couldn't get through, they couldn't get food in, and because roads were closed, we couldn't get food. So luckily we had some cheese and crackers, and even though the power had gone off, everything was still sort of cold in the fridge, even though it was the day after. Luckily it hadn't been hot, so we're fine. We haven't got food poisoning, so I guess that's the main thing. But us losing our power and having a moat is just nothing compared to what other people have gone through. There's some really devastating stories out there, and wildlife affected, and people have just lost everything. And I know a lot of people think, oh, well, they've got insurance, but that's often not the case. There's a lot of people that can't afford insurance. I was reading an article the other day from a financial advisor, and he assumed, like I did, that many people would just have insurance. And apparently in one of these places that's been hit by the massive floods in New South Wales, it costs like 30 grand a year to get insurance because of, widespread flooding. And people can't afford that, so they take the risk and then they lose everything. And I know some people are probably thinking, well, why did they live there in the first place? And I guess that's fair enough as well. I know before we bought this house I did extensive searches on the flooding in the area, and the thing is, a lot of councils change flood zones, so they zone land that may have flooded this time as residential, where you can build a home, and then something like this happens where it's just a massive amount of water in a very short time, and the drains can't handle it, the infrastructure can't handle it, and land that might not have flooded before is now flooding. And so it might be a situation like that, or it might be a property that they purchased at a lower price because they were crossing their fingers and hoping for the best. All circumstances are different, but most councils have land that shows where floods have occurred, so that but things change, waterways change, and when you get the amount of water that we got in such a short period of time, you can often get flooding just from the actual stormwater's overflowing. It's not from the rain, it's from the dams being released of water, or stormwater overflowing and things like that. So because we're at the end of the street and there's a hill type thing, we get all the water from the top of the street, which of course flooded our pool and it was all underwater. But because we've got a lot of grass on the area and David spent a lot of time doing the drains, we were able to release it outside. Whereas our neighbour over the road, I felt so sorry for her. She's got 2 kids, single mum, and one of her kids is autistic. So it just makes life even harder for her. And her drains, she's got quite a lot of concrete in the front and a little bit of grass, enough to cope with normal downpours of rain. But her drains just overflowed and she was out there and it was bucketing rain. And I wanted to go over and help her, but the rain was so torrential that even getting across the road was just too hard. And she ended up getting a few people to help her, but she was trying to push the water away from the drain out to the stormwater, which was really just an uphill battle because it did not stop raining. It was just torrential. But anyway, look, we're okay, and there's a lot of events and fundraising going on for people that were really adversely affected, so I hope that everyone is taken care of. But I mean, the construction industry is just going to be overloaded with the amount of people that need repairs on their homes. It's just going to be incredible. Anyway, so what else has been happening? Oh, I got a new computer. My computer hasn't been going very well. So because of the rain, it actually took 4 attempts to get to the shops because all our roads were closed around our suburbs. So we were basically, although we weren't flooded like other people were, all the main roads were closed. And as I said, the supermarket was closed, and the main roads only opened a couple of days ago. So I was able to go out and get the computer, but for a good 10 days I was trying to get to the shop to get the computer, but because of the flooding on the roads, couldn't go. Like the park where we normally take Buddy, I put on Instagram, on his Instagram, it was just all the play area and everything was just completely underwater. You couldn't even see some of it because the water was that deep. Like we had like 1.2 meters, and luckily the suburb adjoining us, the next suburb over, maybe 2 suburbs, yeah, they were all evacuated, which really surprised me given that they're on a high hill, but they had a lot of low-lying areas. So anyway, I finally got my computer, 4th time lucky. It's an M1 Apple Mac, and ooh, she fast. But of course, as soon as you get the computer and you get it home, you realise that not everything works with it. So for example, like USBs don't work with this because it's got a smaller USB port, the USB-C. So I had to go up and get a new USB hub and put that in this morning, and of course it's not reading the data on my USBs. Then the other thing that didn't work was my microphone's got a USB, and it's the old bigger USB-A's, and that doesn't work with the little tiny USBs that are on the Mac. So then I had to go and buy an adapter to plug that in. So there's all these things that you expect to work and they just don't work. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure that they've changed the Apple mouse as well, because I keep I can't seem to use it, so I've actually gone and plugged in a really cheap mouse because I can't seem to get the Apple mouse to click the way I want it to. So there's all these little quirks and all these little weird things that you've got to get used to when you get a new computer, but it is so much faster. I wasn't able to edit videos on my last computer because I looked at it and it is actually 6 or 7 years old, and I guess that's the reason, but it was taking me a week to edit one video and I was getting so frustrated. and slamming the mouse on the desk, just making life worse for myself, really. And I just couldn't take it anymore, so I didn't want to buy a new computer. It really wasn't in the budget, but I've had to because the frustration level was just huge. But anyway, hopefully it'll last another 6 years, and the pain of buying it won't last that long, because it really is so much faster and it's so much better. But of course they didn't have what I wanted in stock, and I was so desperate I just got an extra hard drive because I couldn't really wait another month for them to get stock of this. And then of course we were going to get a dryer, but because of all the flooding and everything, everyone had the same idea, so I haven't been able to wash clothes. And then when it finally got sunny, I think I did 10 loads of washing in one day, and then it started to rain again, so I had all these little setups downstairs under the patio to try and dry things. But nothing compared to what other people have gone through. Absolutely nothing. We have been minorly inconvenienced, but nothing at all compared to what others have gone through. And my heart really goes out to them. I really just feel so sorry for so many people in the world at the moment, what they're going through. It's just awful. So I tell you what, I am loving these Holbeins in the book. They are so creamy, but they're kind of firm as well, and I really, really love them. I'm so glad that they're selling open stock now, because I think these are going to replace my Prismas as my favourite pencils to colour with, at least in Klara's books. I can't believe how easily the colour just goes on. It's just fantastic. Oh, and I've got to tell you, in the whole Titicaca saga, as I now refer to it, during that incredible downpour of rain that we had here, I noticed on the Saturday that I felt like I was getting the infection back again. Poor little boob got all red and hot, and it was very painful to touch, and if I brushed it against anything it felt really sore. And I was thinking, oh my God, I've got it back again. And we were told to all stay at home because the rain was so bad, the downpour was so heavy, and as I said, roads were blocked and things like that. But I was really worried because I didn't want to end up in hospital again. And anyway, the road to the hospital was blocked, and I was starting to think, am I overreacting here, or am I sort of making it up and just feeling anxious, and I've given myself, this thing that doesn't exist, because I'm so anxious about it. But anyway, I thought I better go to the doctor because I'd run out of antibiotics, thankfully. But of course, all of the doctors were booked out because a lot of their staff couldn't get to the clinics. And I ended up getting an appointment in the afternoon with a male doctor that I'd never seen before. So David battled the rain and, drove me down there, and it was a real nightmare, to be honest. But I was really anxious about it, thinking, here we go again. And if I don't go then, and it gets worse, then this could be really disastrous. So anyway, I went down, and when I told the male doctor what the problem was, he didn't want to have a look at it because none of the female nurses were in that day, and a lot of the male doctors don't like to look at your little bits and pieces. And I'm like, sweetheart, everyone in this suburb has seen my boob. Just, have a look at it and just tell me if I'm overreacting or not, because, I don't like going to the doctors, and for me to come to the doctor is actually a big deal. It's not like for other people. And so anyway, he looked at it and he said, no, I was right. It was infected yet again. And so he gave me more antibiotics, and then I seen my regular doctor a few days later when the rain had calmed down a bit, and she gave me more antibiotics and really at a loss of, what to do. And so Yesterday I went to see her again, and the antibiotics, because I've been on them for like 8-9 weeks, she believes that I'm resistant to them. So she's given me some other antibiotics that are a different flavour, but no penicillin. The options are really running low for antibiotics that don't have any derivative of penicillin in it for me, because I'm allergic to it. And anyway, so she's given me these new ones, and she sent me off for another ultrasound yesterday, and they're going to compare that to the previous ultrasound. But she's also wants to see if she can get a biopsy organised, and has asked the ultrasound people about that. But I won't get the report back until Monday when I'm seeing her again. And she also wants me to book in with a breast surgeon, because there's something going on there and she can't, like, she's done everything that she can with the antibiotics and whatnot, and she believes there might be some bacteria or something under the skin which is causing these reoccurrences, or why it's not healing up, as well as the resistance to the antibiotics. But the wait for the breast surgeon is like 6 months in the public health system, so I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and get a private breast surgeon. And then the other thing she said was that if these antibiotics don't work, I'm going to have to go into hospital and go on an IV drip. So, I mean, if you're new to this channel, I have huge medical anxiety, and the biggest thing for me is to get a needle in the vein. It's like something I haven't done for 30 years, and it is just terrifying for me. Being in a hospital where everyone's jabbing at you and poking at you is my idea of the worst nightmare in the world. And so I came home yesterday and I got the ultrasound done in the afternoon, and I came home and I was just so deflated and upset, and I really hope these antibiotics work, because the thought of having to go on an IV drip or have surgery or even have the biopsy or anything just freaks me out. But while I was there, every time I go and see her, I've been practicing getting the blood pressure cuff on. Now, I know that this is probably no big deal for most people, but I have such a needle anxiety that if you put a blood pressure cuff on me, I'll rip it off, because I feel like that you're going to stick something in my vein, which just freaks me out. And so I've been practicing going in and letting her put the blood pressure cuff on me, and I've managed it twice now, so without fainting or anything. So she says I'm getting better at it, but she's still really keen for me to have this blood test. And I, of course, I'm trying very slowly to desensitize myself to the thought of someone putting something in my vein. And I've been practicing, having my arm out and putting an elastic band around the top of it for a few minutes, getting that blood pressure cuff on when I go to the doctors. And I've got to watch some, more hypnosis type videos and things like that. But she's given me like a numbing cream to put on my arms before I have the blood test, and also a Valium to have the night before and one half an hour before. I mean, all this kerfuffle because of my extreme anxiety about it. It's just unbelievable. And I just wish I was someone else sometimes, really. I really do. I mean, I wish the logic that I had for other things translated to medical matters, but hopefully I'll get there soon, because she's really giving me a hard time. And not a hard time, she's absolutely lovely, but you can see that she really wants this blood, and I'm really going to have to do it. I just hope that be in a better frame of mind by then. Anyway, someone that's not scared of blood tests is Buddy, our little doggy, our beautiful border collie. And so we actually took him up to see a homeopathic vet on Monday. David took the day off work, and we went about an hour and a half, 2 hours, with all the road closures and road works, up to the Sunshine Coast, and we met with the homeopathic vet. And I think we left at like 6:30 in the morning. I was hanging for a coffee, and the appointment was for 8:30, and we were there for 2.5 hours. So Buddy got a blood test. Unfortunately, it didn't work. They rang up and we've got to go back and he's got to have another one. But he also got some acupuncture and a new little diet, which is going to cost us an absolute fortune because he'll be eating better than everyone else in the house, I think. It's like 2/3 of my grocery budget is now going to Buddy's new food for the week, but we love him, so Vegemite sandwiches for us. And and he got all these homeopathic medicines and Chinese herbs, and then they gave us a prescription for CBD oil, so when he has a seizure we can give him a small drop of CBD oil and then sort of work out bit trial and error on the dosage for it. But we had to go to a special compounding chemist to pick that up, and who knew CBD oil was so expensive? Like, we'd sort of budgeted $500 for this visit to the vet. So with the CBD oil, it actually cost $1,000. So, luckily we had some rainy day money tucked away because it was twice what we expected. Well, what we'd hoped. We didn't really know what it was going to be. And then plus the new diet, and there's going to be a lot of cooking and stuff involved in that, or a lot of chopping and whatnot. So, but it's all worth it if it can help reduce his seizures and help make him happier and, a better little doggy. And so we've got to go up in a couple of weeks and he's got to get that blood test redone again and hopefully see, some improvement from the herbal medication and things like that he's now taking. But I've had to write it all down because it's too hard to remember these things, like one drop here, and you can't touch the eyedropper on your skin or anything, and there's all these things to remember, and I can barely remember my name sometimes, so I've had to write it all out. And the recipe they gave us was for a dog that's only like 5 kilos and Buddy's like 30 kilos. And so got to do the maths and work out how to do that. So I'm going to try and get a little small freezer so that we can make up all these little meals in bulk and, portion them out because you've got to measure all this stuff. And so I figure, once a week I just make it all up and then portion it out, put it in the freezer and then whack it out and then give him his little herbs and stuff on top and whatnot. So hopefully that works out. He's still on all of his normal medication, but the medication for epilepsy in dogs at least, I'm not sure about humans, even though my brother was epileptic. It does affect your internal organs, so a lot of these herbs and stuff are working to combat those side effects. And so he'll still have his normal medication and, hopefully one day his medication can ease up and things can be restored. But look, at the moment we'd be just happy if he loses some weight, gets a bit more energy, and if the frequency of the seizures reduces, that would be the best. Hopefully that works out. Now I'm going to do a bit of this picture off screen as well and then come back next week and do the rest with you. I'm not really sure what to do on the background because I wanted to keep with this blue and yellow theme, so I was thinking maybe like blue bubbles or things like that, maybe a light blue, but not really sure. I am enjoying using these Holbein, so really enjoying it, but not sure where I'm going with this yet. And the blue and yellow is not like something that I would normally colour, but hopefully it'll work out. If not, I've got a spare copy of this book, I think, so I'll have to get my spare out, which I don't want to do. I'm saving those spares for when I get better at colouring, and then I can do a redo of all the favourite pictures I have. So I haven't been actually buying anything in the colouring book world for, a long time now. But I was tempted to buy Hannah Lynn's new grayscale colouring book. And I'd love it if you've already got it, and if you can tell me, what you like about it. It's I think I'd just get the PDF and then I can print it out on my own paper. But I've been wanting Hannah Lynn to do a grayscale book for so long. But when I looked at the pictures on Etsy, some of them looked a little bit dark. But then I've seen that she also had a lighter version, so I'm not sure. But I'll probably go look at it again. And I mean, let's face it, I'm probably going to buy it. The other thing is, if you want to support people of the Ukraine, so particularly like, why can't I not think today? The nice little town artist, is it Tatiana Bagema? Oh gosh, my memory, terrible. Then buying stuff from their Etsy store is a really great way to support them if you have the finances, obviously, and it's in your budget, because Etsy have waived the fees for Ukraine residents. So normally, like, their listing fees to just list an item is 20 cents each time. So for digital books, they pay 20 cents every time, basically. You buy something, and then there's processing fees and things like that. So say $1 worth of fees. And so they get the actual balance of the money. So if they're selling it for $6, they get like the $5 right in their hand. Whereas when you buy something from Amazon from independent artists like Tatiana, oh gosh, I'm sure that's not her name. You know who I mean, nice little town. Then when you take out the cost of printing the book, which is like $5, then they only get a couple of bucks. So they actually get more money in their hand with Etsy if you wanted to support them that way. But anyway, it's up to you entirely. And if you want to support people like Colouring with Alina, she's got that YouTube channel. She runs ads on it. She's got a Patreon. So there's a lot of ways there that you can support Colouring with Alina as well, just by going to her YouTube channel, watching the videos, watching the ads, and also if you were financially able and you wanted to, you could also join her Patreon. It's obviously up to you. But yeah, lots of ways to support people in the Ukraine, which I know most of us are all thinking of, and most of us in the colouring community know these people that are affected as well. But anyway, I am going to finish up now, and I shall see you next week with the rest of this picture, and hopefully by then I know what I'm doing with the background. So that's it from me. Until next time, stay safe and happy colouring.